Well, hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning into the Storytelling Alchemist show here on the LA Tribune's station, which will be on the LA Tribune's Roku TV network here in a couple days. Here live on my YouTube channel and other channels as well. This will be the first show of 2022. Very excited. I just got back from Maui and had a wonderful time. And but we are going to have an incredible guest on, and I think it's really exciting because Dimitri's actually been on my show probably about 5, 6 years ago, but that was when I was fully on Blog Talk Radio and different radio formats. So we're going to be talking about his book. I'm going to just pull up the cover here: Heaven in Your Spiritual Evolution: A Mystic's Guide to the Afterlife and Reaching Your Highest Potential. And we're going to be speaking to Dimitri Moraitis. And so I'm going to be bringing him on the line, and we'll just start chatting about this wonderful topic. And so, Dimitri, how are you today?
Hey, I'm great. Happy New Year. Yeah,
Definitely happy New Year. It's been we're hitting the good energy here, so I'm excited
yeah,
about what's in store for us this year. So let's
great.
just kind of jump into it. You've obviously written several books,
Yes,
and
yeah,
I've just put your website up here, spiritualarts.org. Let's talk about, how did you get into talking about heaven and your spiritual evolution, and getting into heaven and how we work our way. I believe in, you actually say, we don't just jump into heaven, we kind of work our way, and I'm probably not using the
exactly.
correct words.
Yeah, we grow to heaven. We don't go to heaven, we grow to heaven. Well, I've been a student of metaphysics for many, many years. And of course, the book was co written with Barbara Y. Martin, the mystic clairvoyant. And I got to probably start a little bit just real quick with her. She was basically born with clairvoyant sight. From 3 years old, she was seeing auras and angel visitations. And by 8, she was having kind of simple experiences of the other side. She said in the beginning, I didn't quite understand it all, but I knew, for example, with auras, if they were pretty colors around someone, I was attracted to them, and if they weren't so nice, I was detracted to them. And then when she was about 11, and this was Depression era, by the way, so this was long before any of this subject matter was discussed. Um, she met somebody that was she was actually in an acting company, and she met somebody that was a hermetic scientist, and the woman basically said, you can see the aura, can't you? And then she started to get some training in it. When she moved to LA, she tried to live, quote unquote, a normal life in her teen years and early 20s, but then the metaphysical kept calling her, and eventually she realized it was her life path, and she studied with another mystic that trained her to be a teacher, and she's been a teacher ever since. So the material in the book is based on 50 years of clairvoyant study. It's not a new subject here. I met Barbara many years ago. I went to California for film and television. I was beginning a career in that, and it was actually going quite well. But I was having these, at the time, I didn't even know what metaphysics was. But I called them my inspiration moments, these kind of heightened awareness moments. They were very clear, understanding of things, and it sort of came by itself, and then it would sort of leave by itself. And at one point, it got so strong. I had the spiritual awakening in a very dramatic way. But even then, at first, I didn't quite understand what I was having. Someone said, "Oh, you're having a religious experience." I said, "I'm not quite sure it's that." And then when I understood metaphysics, I couldn't get enough of it. So then I met Barbara about a year later. I realized first night meeting her, this is my teacher, because she was talking from all these direct experiences. First time meditating, it was a transformative experience. And it's been really an amazing journey since. We both love writing, and then we started to write. Now, after a while, Barbara had all these notes and inspirational teachings. So we got to organize this. So that's when we started Spiritual Arts Institute. That's when we started writing the books. The first one was, and I think that you interviewed me on the updated edition of that, was the Change Your or Change Your Life book. That's about really what we do. We meditate with divine light. Meditation is so important. Then we've written a book on spiritual healing, on karma and reincarnation, on the angels. And then this one, Heaven and Your Spiritual Evolution, is sort of the big picture. It's like, why are we even studying spirituality? What does it mean to walk the spiritual path? What is that path actually leading to? What does it mean to grow and evolve spiritually? And this does take into the understanding of the other side and how the other side is connected to our life here. So it's really this very grand picture of the evolutionary process. So I'm very
Mm.
excited with this book because it kind of tells the world who we are. We are a spiritual growth organization.
Yeah, and I thought was really profound because a lot of people are trying to find enlightenment or achieve enlightenment or get into heaven, and so to speak. And one of the things I think it's Charles Fillmore that even says that, spiritual growth is a gradual process.
Right.
It's
Exactly.
something that we grow into, and we're looking for this instant gratification. Even back in when Charles Fillmore got started, well over 100 years ago, you
Exactly.
know, and
Exactly.
so.
He was
Um,
interesting because, as I understand it, before he started Unity, they were doing these healings and spiritual healings. They were having these fantastic successes. And they were saying, "Well, what are you doing?" And then all this metaphysical principles came in and ended up being this whole major movement.
mhm.
So yeah, this is very much along those lines and following in a lot of that tradition. Absolutely.
Yeah, so it's really powerful when you think about it. And I think it's, one of the things when people think about the afterlife or heaven and that kind of stuff, they think about, hey, am I going to be reunited with my loved ones?
Right.
And
Right.
so does that, based on
Well,
what
yeah.
you're,
So, well, well, definitely let's talk about the other side. But one thing I want to emphasize is the other side is not just for the day when you die. It's like, oh, it's good. It's something to look forward to when I'm done with this life. Certainly, it
Mhm.
is something to look forward to when we're done with this life. But heaven and the holy higher is working with you today. The inspiration, the guidance, the direction you're getting, all that's coming from the inner world. So you're meant to build that bridge to heaven right this very minute. Now, as far as though the crossing over to the other side, we have to realize, there, well, the other side. Well, first of all, the other side is not one place. It's many places. The Bible says, "In my Father's house are many mansions." So there are many dimensions of life on the other side. There are actual places you can visit, but there are also states of consciousness. And what happens is, let's say right now, we are spiritually vibrating at a certain rate, and that's reflected in our auric field. So let's say if I were to die today, I would take the light, the spiritual power I have now, not what I had yesterday or tomorrow, and that would carry me to the other side to a place that I've earned the right to be at. It's not really reward or punishment, it's like attracting like. But the
Mhm.
nice thing about the other side is, first of all, it's extremely well organized. And yes, there is a guiding presence. And things like reunions definitely do happen there. If loved ones are there ahead of us, often they're part of even the transition process. So it's not so much of a shock to us. And guess what? Even beloved pets we have reunions with on the other side. Because if you spend 20 years giving a whole lot of love to an animal, that animal is going to reciprocate.
Well, you made a good point there too, is that we're always looking for the afterlife or meeting up with our loved ones that we miss and that kind of stuff. And one of the things that I think is very true is that of course heaven is within it. We can ask help from this other side, so to speak. Now can talk to spirit right now, ask for help or guidance right now. And there's just a lot of things that we're still looking in the future and not living, what do they say, in the now of the moment, so to speak. you
Mhm.
know
No, you got to build heaven here. If you're growing to heaven, which is an evolutionary process, that means you have to unfold all your potential here. The earth is the school. So you have to build your alignment here. Yogananda used to say that the goal is here, he's saying, is to see God face to face while you're still in a physical body. He didn't mean it as a literal face, but he meant getting to the God presence. So we tend to think of God as something we experience, with a life well lived, but after death, But the enlightenment is meant to happen here, but it does take a lot of effort. It does take a lot of attention. And one of the things that the book is trying to emphasize, and we emphasize, is this is one of the best times to grow spiritually is right now. We're on this having this kind of conversation right now. This would have been unheard of at another time and age, unless you're in mystery school or an ashram. So this is now the time. And if you've had the spiritual knocking, which I'm sure many of your listeners and viewers have had, that's the divine knocking on your door. And please do your best to make your spiritual growth an even higher priority in your life. We're constantly getting bombarded with things that are clamoring from our attention, and it's easy to get distracted. But we must remember there are many things we can do in this life, but you want to make sure you're doing things that are essential to your life. We have to prioritize.
I do agree. I think we're in a very different time. I'm just even thinking about the last I started studying metaphysics in 1996, so we're,
There you
what,
go.
26 years. 26 years ago, if I would have brought up I remember a conversation bringing up a pendulum, and my friend of mine just thought I was crazy and I was moving it. And so, and to talk about the fact that I had gotten a psychic reading from somebody scared people. It was but nowadays, this is, yeah, everybody's talking about being empaths or having some kind of spiritual experience, and they probably had them before, but they weren't necessarily talking about it.
Well,
So
meditation is mainstream now. You've got
yeah.
billion-dollar apps now for meditation. There's yoga even taught in grade school. So the mindset is in a different place now. But these
Mhm.
things take time. Barbara was such a pioneer. She was doing this long before it was a popular thing to do. And pioneer does mean you're doing it when others are not doing it. But eventually, as you kind of stick with it, if it's genuine, it starts to catch fire, and then it starts to build. And we're part of the Renaissance. We're helping ourselves. And I love Gandhi's line, be the change you want to see in the world. But by being that change, you are actually helping to change the world for the better.
Yeah, so Susan says Earth School 101, some graduate early, some later.
Yes, yes, that's true. We are. It's not a race with each other. We're all at a different place in the evolutionary process. But what we do want to pay attention to is, are we reaching our own potential? Am I unfolding the power and potential I have? If I'm a musician, I may not become a Mozart in this life, but maybe I could become a wonderful concert pianist. But
Hmm.
I got to aim for that and make that happen. That's what matters. Where it's, with heaven, it's not even though it's an evolutionary process, it's not a matter of if you're going to go to heaven. It's just a matter of when.
Mm. Yeah, that's actually really powerful because remember that, one of the way I was raised, you either go to the afterlife or you burn in eternal hell, and so
Right.
it's like we're taught these, and so it scares people.
Yeah.
But the truth
And
is,
that
it's
was part of the point at the time to try to live a spiritual life. Now, the whole idea of hell, I think we have to be very careful here, because what metaphysics is, there's no such thing as a soul past redemption. Okay, we can flunk a grade in school on earth, we can do horrible things, but those are horrible things. It's not who we are.
Mhm.
Eventually, every soul finds its way back home. Now, what happens is, if I have lived a horrible life and done terrible things to people and myself, what's happened is I've lost so much spiritual power that when I find myself on the other side, I'm not going to be able to go to those higher realms, not because I'm being punished, but I don't have the power. So I will find myself perhaps in those nether worlds, but they're not eternal. It's the divine helps kind of pull us out of those places and gets us back on the spiritual path. So yes,
Mm.
our journey is not a straight line upward. If you look at all your incarnations, there'd be some that are wonderful, some oops, not so wonderful. So the evolution is a little bit like a stock market graph, a little bit up and down, but eventually the line is moving upward.
Well, I think that really comes down to it's the journey, right? We
Yeah.
start off as the fool, as the major arcana shows us, and then we end up, through those 20, was it 22 cards or the end of that journey, but it's just the journey of the soul, and so.
There's a lot for the soul to learn,
Mhm.
and the one of the challenges of writing the book is that when you're talking about the big picture evolution, you have to weave in several principles. So let's say if you're talking about the aura, you're focusing just on the aura. If you're talking about karma, you're focusing just on karma. But evolution, you have to kind of pull it together. So for example, You need the aura because the power, the fuel of your aura is fueling your evolution. It's the most precious thing you possess is your light. Now, also, no matter how good a life you live, we cannot learn all the lessons of life in a single life. So, another big principle is you reincarnate. You come back multiple times, not in this endless, never, pointless loop, but in this every life is like another grade in school to gather up more information, to learn, to grow, have this diversity of experiences, and that's the evolution. And then the third principle is we don't do it alone. We're getting help from the other side, whether you call them angels or devas or whatever your terminology is. There are divine ones, our elder brothers and sisters in light, who are helping us on the journey. We're not figuring it out on our own. I love the line in the Talmud, for every blade of grass, there's an angel bending over saying, grow.
Mm. Well, so we got help. We have
Absolutely.
helper.
But we have to do it ourselves. Like a good teacher, the teacher will teach us, but we have to do our own homework.
Well, it's kind of like we get coaches and mentors in this lifetime. So
Exactly.
we have spiritual mentors that are helping us on the other side. So, which I think is really powerful. Because we think we're all alone down here, but we're really not.
No, you could be on a deserted island 1,000 miles from any physical person. You're still not alone.
Mm.
Yeah.
So now, there's a lot going on in this world, and I think this is just a tad bit off subject, but I just want to bring it out there because we're talking about working our way into heaven. So, would you think that some of the lessons right now is to turn to heaven for even these hard times that people are going through? So, some people are having not such hard times; they're having great times, but there are some people that are scared. They feel like things are falling apart, and so, would you feel like now is the time for them to turn to spirit or heaven to ask for guidance and help?
Absolutely, absolutely. I love the Chinese character, the symbol for crisis and opportunity is the same character, meaning that you can take a moment of crisis in your life, which is a moment of change, and turn it into an opportunity. It's all in your perspective of things. Right now, the world is going through growing pains.
Mm,
And when there are growing pains, some of the old is dropping away, and some of that happens a little bit painfully. And maybe some of the new is not quite there yet, but it's on its way. Barbara gave a beautiful example. She used to talk about this as sort of end of times, not like the end of the world, but the end of an era and the beginning of another. And in this time, it's like some of the old junk has to come to the surface. It's like if there's been an infection on your hand and there's sort of this boil there. Sometimes you have to lance it. The pus has to come out so that you can clean the wound. Well, we're a little bit in that pus releasing time right now where all this junk is coming out, but so it can be cleaned. The inspiration we've gotten over and over from the higher is we're heading to better days. We're heading to a newer golden age right now. And
mhm.
we have to keep our mind on the higher more than ever right now because there are more opportunities coming in. If you look at the condition of the world 150 years ago and today, I know there are a lot of problems today, but it's vastly improved today from 150 years ago.
Well, 150 years ago, we didn't even have cars. We didn't
Yeah,
have.
but I mean, the life
Yeah.
expectancy, the health. I mean, so many things have changed. Of course, there are enormous problems in the world, but our advice is don't fall for the gloom and doom because that's really our own projections. And if I have a fear and then someone says, "Oh, everything's falling apart," I can kind of connect with that unintentionally, and suddenly, we're both commiserating with how terrible things are. You want to focus. If you want to change something, you have to look at what you want to change and make better, not what's holding you back, but how to solve it and move on forward. And there are a lot of things that can be moving forward now. Even this pandemic time, is a time for reassessing. Look how many people are reassessing their careers now. And they're realizing what I was doing before really wasn't that fulfilling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So now they're saying, I want to do something that has more meaning to me.
Yeah, people are changing a lot of things. People are going back to school. They're looking at different ways of
Yeah.
doing things. I mean, the fact that we work at home, most of us, is or a good chunk of us, is would have never been talked about even 5 years ago.
No,
So,
no. I mean, in our work, because we do a lot of our classes online, video conferencing is very familiar to us. And I'm thinking, okay, the world's sort of caught up with that one, you know. You just have to be careful to turn it off so you're not working all the time.
that's true. When I walk out of this office, I'm in my other part of the house, and
There you
I'm not
go.
working.
There you go. There you go. You say, okay, I'm not working now. I left the office. Honey, I'm
Well,
home. Yeah. Yeah.
hi, honey, I'm home from work. It was a long commute.
Yeah.
So I mean, and there's a lot of great advice there. I mean, and it's like even we're 2 years into this basically now, and and I was just talking to my business partner just shortly before the show, and she was mentioning, we constantly are asking to go back to the way it was or back to normal, and she goes, "And what is that? And what is normal anymore?" And so, I think that one of the things that when we start practicing what you're talking about here, that's going to change our perspective a lot, and
Oh,
help us
yes.
to.
Oh, no. And no, we will come out of this the better for it. Now, again, if there are lessons to be learned, we need to learn them both collectively and individually. I think one of the things we have to understand collectively is that the world really is a smaller place. It really is more integrated. And things
Mhm.
that could be happening halfway around the world could be affecting us over here. So while we have to sort of honor our individual boundaries, we also have to recognize our interconnectedness and sort of the greater universality that's going on, and learn to cooperate better with each other. That's the principle of civilization, cooperation. And when we get afraid, sometimes we don't want to do that. We want to retreat, when it may be the best thing to do is the very opposite of that. But I think we will emerge in a brighter mode. There are a lot of innovative minds out right now, and a lot of creative people trying to figure things out. And I think even new leadership is going to emerge. I think there's a lot of shifting that's going to happen. Yes, there's going to be saber rattling, and there can be some problems here and there, but again, we're not figuring this out on our own. We've passed through some big times. Remember when the big worry was there was going to be nuclear holocaust, right?
Oh
And that
yeah.
was going to be the end of the world, and we were all going to explode. And so we somehow, I mean, not that it could never happen, but we've passed through some of those danger times. We'll handle the challenges now, and we will deal with them now.
I was just watching a documentary. I'll just bring this up, and then we'll have another question I want to go into back into the book, um, about the gas prices in the '70s and the shortage of the gas in the '70s,
Oh, I remember
and
that.
I would have been I would have been a baby then, but I'm just thinking
Yeah,
that's pretty interesting. But what I
yeah.
kind of wanted to get into is that um, I've been a studier, and a lot of people that watch my show have been a studier of near death experiences and what it's
Mm.
like when you get over on the other side. Do you remember this life or what you've experienced in this lifetime? There's a lot of different ideas about that,
Right,
but
right. Well, out of body, now it brings up a great point, and Barbara points it out at the very beginning of the book. You know, how do you know? How can anyone know about the other side? Without dying, is there really such a thing? Of coming back and telling the tale. And there are different ways that this happens. So, for example, what we term out of body can be mean one of several different things. It could be literally, I was in a car accident and I was thrown out of my body, and I'm still in the area, but I'm not in my physical body. There have been cardiologists that have talked about, oh my God, I can't, this one cardiologist said 50%, almost 50% of his patients that came out of open heart surgery described out of body experiences, and with detail described what he was doing during the surgical procedure.
hmm
So there have been a lot of reported outer body. Then there have been the fantastic ones, right? Where you see the tunnel and you go through the tunnel, and maybe there are loved ones on the other side, and they tell you it's not your time and you have to come back. Scientists would say, well, that was hallucination, but these end up being life-changing moments. The people are not the same after this experience. There have been the scary experiences where they see the dark things and evil entities and things like that. And one gentleman was a heavy alcoholic, and he had this out of body experience and saw these terrible things. And when he got back in his body, he never touched a drop of alcohol ever again. You know, um, and then they're the kind that Barbara's really describing, which are these more carefully orchestrated visitations to the other side that are coordinated by the higher. It's not you doing it, it's the higher doing it for you. And those can be very profound experiences and educational. I had a very, when I first met Barbara, worked with her, I had a very, was the side. And one of the things I remember most about it wasn't, of course, it was this beautiful pastoral setting, but it was the divine presence. It was
Mm.
so strong there that you didn't question if God was there or not. It was all around you. And I was on a high for 3 days after that. Just you realize there is just so much to what really we call life, and we're just this is like one country in many, this physical world is like one country in many countries of what is out there. Sri Yukteswar Yoganada's teacher said, the physical universe is like a basket hanging on the tree of the astral universe. So there's a lot out there. We're starting to understand the vastness of the cosmos physically. Now we need to pay attention to the vastness of the cosmos spiritually.
Mm. Yeah, there's so much that we don't understand, and we're just on the I think on the brink or the
Really.
this the border of understanding. And then, I think even beyond that, we'll probably still have more.
Always more to learn. Always more.
Yeah,
That would be totally disappointing if there was a peak. Okay, I've learned everything. There's nothing else to learn.
we'd be bored.
That's exactly about 5 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, we'd be like, all right, there's got to be something. Let's cause some
And,
drama.
and by the way, I say this too. Some people have this image of heaven like you're on clouds and you're playing harps and you got these white robes and say that sounds boring. I don't want to. If that's heaven, I don't know. I'm so sure that's what I want. Think of heaven in a different way. Think of heaven as the much fuller expression of your own creativity. So, for example, take your most inspired creative day you've ever had in your life, multiply it by 100, and that's giving you an idea what it's like to be in heaven. It is
So the
extremely
so
creative and active, and you are engaged in extraordinary activities when
yeah,
you're in.
so you're completely open.
Yeah.
So very, very cool. So so I imagine we can find the book on Amazon
Yes,
and then
Amazon, bookstores, our website, and thank you for posting it, spiritualarts.org. We do a lot online. We have our local center in Encinitas, California, near San Diego. We have classes and workshops and training programs. I share it with people. Metaphysics is a little bit like learning an instrument or a language. The more you do it, the better you get at it. And I've been doing it for 37 years now. And I'm more excited today than when I started. And I was pretty excited when I started.
that's really cool. I mean, it's just like I feel like I learn something new every day,
Yeah, that's great.
and or at least a new perspective, and so that's always a good thing. So, what last minute wisdom or last minute piece that maybe we didn't chat about in our show here today that you'd like want to leave the viewers?
Well, you covered a lot already. I would just urge people to make your spiritual growth a higher priority in your life, because it's what's going to lead you to the fullest satisfaction in your life. And it will bless every part of your life. Your spiritual growth, your earthly life, it's all part of the same life. And when you make the spiritual your priority, everything else seems to get just better connected. And perhaps meditate. If you're not meditating already, start meditating.
Well, let's chat about because I know you bring up meditations in the book and stuff like that, but how people really get squeamish when you talk about meditation. And of course, and I always say it's a practice. It takes you a while. It's not something that, like you mentioned, getting into heaven, you're working your way into that. You're
It's a
not going to get, it took me a good 10 years before I could get into a good, solid meditation.
Okay. Okay. Well, meditate, think of it this way. Meditation is your one-on-one time with the divine.
Okay.
You're kind of withdrawing from the activities of life to get in tune with the inner part of you that's part of the eternal life. And in our
Mm.
practice, they're actually what we call meditative prayers. So what we do is we get into the stillness, we make a prayer request, which is a petitioning, a sending out prayers, petitioning to God, asking for spiritual energy to receive. Then we get into the meditative state to receive it. So, for example, if I feel I need more confidence in my life, I call on the golden ray of wisdom light, which brings in that confidence. If I feel I need more love, I call in the deep rose pink of spiritual love. And that's an actual energy that moves into your auric field. And then as I live that, as I express that love or that strength or wisdom or confidence, it starts to become, part of my auric field. And it's a beautiful practice because, again, it's so easy to get just caught up in everything. And I know some people say, gosh, it's hard for me to quiet my mind. But like you said, with practice, you can do that. You can control your mind. It's very important to control this mind. If it gets the better of you, this is a navigator, right? This is steering the soul. And you've got to get that mind in a place where you're steering the soul in the right directions.
Good stuff. So, everybody, I want you to. We're talking about um, uh, Dimitri's book, Heaven in Your Spiritual Evolution: A Mystic's Guide to Afterlife and Reaching Your Highest Potential. Like we mentioned, you can get that at spiritualarts.org or Amazon. And so, everybody, check that out and go check out their website. There's plenty of great stuff on there as well that you can learn about Dimitri and Barbara. So, Dimitri, thanks you so much for coming on the show. It was very much a pleasure.
It's a delight.
Um,
Thank you for all the good work you're doing.
Thank you so much. And for everybody else, next week, next Wednesday, a week from today, I will have Joseph Selby on about the physics of God in his book, The Physics of God. So that should be a great conversation as well. So, everybody, much love and have a wonderful week and a great start of 2020 or 2022. So, thank you, everybody.